Hey everybody, this is chapter 1 of Bolshevism, Its Roots, Role, Class View, and Methods by Rudolf Sprenger, also known as Helmut Wagner. I probably should have reversed that order. Helmut Wagner's his real name. The first chapter is titled "The Class Triangle of the Russian Revolution." The historic premises of the Russian Revolution were the growth of industry, the quickened political activity of the working class, the unbearable situation of the peasants. The immediate possibility to carry out the revolution and shatter the Tsarist system was supplied by the following conditions: the great demands made on the national economy and the population during the World War, the general organization of the peasants in the wartime army, the arming of the workers. The revolution was carried out by peasants and proletarian numbers, unaided by the Russian bourgeoisie, which could no longer part ways with Tsarism. Quote, "For us, the victory of the bourgeois revolution as a victory of the bourgeoisie is impossible," end quote, Lenin observed in 1908. Lenin had in mind the preponderance of the peasant population, the semi-feudal oppression under which the peasants lived, and the strength and self-consciousness of the Russian proletariat. Though Lenin stressed the peculiar character of the coming revolution, Lenin took care to add the very explicit, quote, "This trait does not remove the bourgeois character of our revolution," end quote. The Russian Revolution was a bourgeois revolution without the bourgeoisie. And that's in italics. The Russian Revolution was a bourgeois revolution without the bourgeoisie. Notwithstanding its fundamentally bourgeois peasant tendencies, it cannot be likened to the bourgeois revolutions of the 17th and 18th centuries. While the classes to the rear of the Russian bourgeoisie pushed spontaneously forward, the Russian bourgeoisie itself slipped into the limbo that swallowed the Tsarist state. The efforts of the Russian peasants and the Russian workers, on the other hand, fused at the given historic moment, combining into one act the elements of two revolutions, bourgeois and proletarian. In an apt characterization of this situation, Trotsky wrote, quote, "In order to create the Soviet state, it was necessary to have come together and interpenetrate two factors of rather antagonistic historic nature: the peasant war, representing a movement that is typical of the dawn of bourgeois development, and the proletarian revolt, already announcing the decline of bourgeois society," end quote. Trotsky, The February Revolution, page 60. So that as a result of the coexistence of the feudal and capitalist economic modes in the country, the antagonistic forms of two revolutions were united in a single social movement, resulting in a new historically distinctive type, the revolution of Russian society, which, sprawling over two continents, joined in itself the social movement of two continents. This union was full of contradictions. The peasants contended for private property. The peasants had the political outlook of the petty bourgeois. In their struggle against the existing political and social system, they developed a new property ideology. The action of the workers, on the other hand, moved in the direction of the abolition of capitalist property. They developed in their struggle the elements of social class behavior. The peasant could not hold down the workers to the level of a bourgeois agrarian revolution, while the workers could not raise the peasants to the level of a socialist revolution. In the Russian Revolution, the peasants' desire for private property and the movement of the proletariat towards its abolition met. Neither of these classes could succeed acting by itself. The revolution led to a conclusion that was different from that sought by other classes. That was all in italics. If this happens again, I'm not going to do this, but since it's only one time, I'm going to do it since the entire paragraph's in italics. The union was full of contradictions. The peasants contended for private property. They had the political outlook of the petty bourgeois. In the peasants' struggle against the existing political and social system, the peasants developed a new property ideology. The action of the workers, on the other hand, moved in the direction of the abolition of capitalist private property. They developed in their struggle the elements of socialist class behavior. The peasant could not hold down the workers to the level of a bourgeois agrarian revolution, while the workers could not raise the peasants to the level of a socialist revolution. In the Russian Revolution, the peasants' desire of private property and the movement of the proletariat towards its abolition met. Neither of these classes could succeed acting by itself. The revolution led to a conclusion that was different from that sought by either class. To have the revolt of the Russian masses meet with victory, there had to be built a bridge between the peasantry and the proletariat, by the way of which the interests of the two classes would find an adjustment. Because their aims were contradictory, they threatened to tear Russia apart immediately after the Tsarist vice that had held the country together was shattered. A struggle between the peasantry and the workers could have only one end: the defeat of the revolution. The revolution needed a new clamp by which the two antagonistic elements that were making it could be held together. Tsarism rested on two classes. To solve its historic tasks, which had been slighted by the Russian bourgeoisie but could not be accomplished by the proletariat, the revolution had to bring forth a new political regime, also basing itself on two classes. Who could create this instrument of cohesion? Who could join and hold together the working class and peasantry of Russia in spite of their economic antagonism? A peasant party could not do that. A peasant party cannot solve such tasks. Neither could it be accomplished by a proletarian party. The party that created this clamp ceased thereby to be a socialist party, since this clamp could only be formed through a compromise between the interests of the proletariat and the interests of private property. A victorious proletarian class could only come to an understanding with middle and social layers like the Russian peasantry under a revolutionary class dictatorship that could assure the socialist direction of the revolution. The conditions for such a revolutionary class dictatorship were missing in Russia. The proletariat was not in the position to take the peasantry in tow. A dictatorship of the workers over the peasants was impossible in Russia. Possible was only a compromise between the interests of the two classes. The embattled Russian workers did not enter into this compromise voluntarily. They were pushed into it by circumstances. The forces that mastered these circumstances politically could not be proletarian. They had to be forces that could take a general (non-class) view of the social tasks of the revolution and possess a determination to carry out these tasks to their ultimate consequence. Such forces were found in Russia. They came from the ranks of the intelligentsia. The intellectuals, who as a social layer were oppressed politically, while the workers and peasants reacted to economic oppression. Only from among the intellectuals of Russia could spring the forces that, rising high above the level of their class, comprehended the needs of the Russian Revolution and swung themselves to its command. Nothing less than the common effort of a bloc of the peasantry, workers and intellectuals could assure the victory of the revolution. The function of commanding this bloc could only fall to the most consistent and revolutionary wing of the intelligentsia, the parties which fought among themselves for the hegemony of the revolution. No other elements were in the position to master politically and direct its blindly moving mass forces. The sharpest weapon of the Russian Revolution was the working class of Russia. However, the mass basis of the victorious revolution was supplied by the peasantry, which by rising pulled the ground, their social base, from under Tsarist absolutism and the landed nobility. Leadership, the intellectuals, weapon of attack, the proletariat, mass basis, the peasantry. That was all in italics. Leadership, the intellectuals, weapon of attack, the proletariat, mass basis, the peasantry. Within this triangle, the Russian Revolution unrolled. Without the understanding of this grouping of forces, there can be no understanding of the nature, course, and results of the Russian Revolution. The party which leaped to the head of the Russian Revolution and clamped together the peasant revolt with the rising of the workers was Lenin's party, the party of the Bolsheviki. Bolshevism was the political expression of those revolutionary intellectuals of Russia who understood the tasks of the moment and, with indomitable energy and ruthless consistence, set themselves to carry them out. Footnote. Under different national historic circumstances which were similarly climaxed in a situation marked by the lack of social equilibrium, ardent and urgent members of the Italian and German intelligentsia, like their Russian brothers, quote, without position, career, or a way out, end quote, also sprang forward to master national revolutions in their countries by means of populist superclass programs inscribed on the banners of monolithic, quote, anti-capitalist, end quote, parties. A comparison of the essential features of the three totalitarian movements, Russian Bolshevism, Italian Fascism, and German Nazism, and a study of their predominantly common historic significance are contained in the forthcoming What is Fascism by Integer. End footnote. That's the end of Chapter 1 of Bolshevism, Its Roots, Role, Class, View, and Methods by Helmut Wagner.